Well, hello there. It's Robert Ohotto. Hey, it's the Oholidays time of year. I'm back with some insights for you. So whether you're overwhelmed with all that you have to do, all that's going on around you, all the pressures that the Oholidays bring, that's Ohotto plus holidays equals Oholidays. That's how we roll. Whether you find that you're getting triggered into shadow dancing with people, and that means you're kind of going to this sort of dance floor, and it's a little break dance battle with people, and you're getting caught up in they're crazy, stuff's going on, it's not fun. Whether you are absorbing the vibes, the funk, the stress others around you in your life are feeling. And let me just say, that's what makes this particular Oholidays Survival Strategy Guide all the more important and relevant, because right now I've never seen anything like this before, except maybe last year. So just in terms of the collective energy field, right? And just all that's in the air and all that we have to consider. So if that's going on with you, if everything else I said is going on with you, if you would consider yourself an empath or empathic soul, meaning just for now, highly sensitive, taking on other people's energy without even trying, it just sort of happens. If that's you, we got to talk. This is for you. And even if you don't consider yourself a highly sensitive person, I think we all get insanely stressed, frustrated, depressed, lonely. Lots of feelings come up around the Oholiday time. So I'm here to give you a little medicine to guide you through all of that in this social live video. And I have done this, I think, pretty much every year, every Oholidays since 2015, 2016, and it's had different incarnations. In fact, if you are on my newsletter on ohotto.com, I'm going to send out a download, an audio download of another version of this that I did that was just so good. I don't know if I could top that angle I took that year. So get on my newsletter if you're not already. It's free. And that'll be coming out in a couple days. So I got a lot to share with you in the social live with some game-changing insights, and just, really a look at through this year, a lens of a few things. One, we're going to get archetypal. So there's going to be some themes I'm going to follow here through this particular version of the Oholidays Survival Strategy Guide for empathic souls, quote unquote. And we're going to get archetypal in it. So I'm going to start talking about what that means and how to do it. It's a new angle I'm adding in. And I'm also going to add in the angle of what it means to be an empathic soul, which I'm going to define shortly. You can kind of feel out whether you're one, and I'll give you some more guidance on where to go. Watch a 2-hour video that I did that helps you decide and determine whether you're an empathic soul. So I want to take that angle on as well. Why should we as empathic souls, and I'm going to assume you are one for now, why should we really listen up right now and be very mindful and pay close attention to everything I'm about ready to drop here? Because we're already, as empathic souls, this is what it means to be empathic soul. We're already capable on a soul level. This doesn't have anything to do with your psychology per se. It doesn't. I'll explain it later. I realized in my readings with people, and this about myself as well, that there are certain souls that incarnate, and I call them empathic souls. It just means you came in with a much greater capacity and bandwidth to feel energetic fields, dimensions, people, animals, all sorts of things alive in the forest, the wildlife. I mean, you feel life in a way not everyone does. And I've been asked this interesting question about the empathic soul phenomena from the assumption that everyone on a soul level has the same kind of wisdom, evolution, bandwidth. And actually, I got to tell you, near as I can tell, based on thousands of readings and all of my stats in the field of intuition, that's not true. Not all souls are as, I guess you could say, evolved as others. And those that are empathic souls come in to this life highly sensitive, capable of feeling and just knowing things without even trying. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later on, but I want to put that on the map as to, okay, if that's you, you best be listening up right about now, because I've got some things to share with you that I think are going to incredibly help you during this Oholiday season. So I'm going to start with a little coaching. We're going to dance around and go through some points. And I put a description of what this the social live was going to be, and I'm going to stay true to that. And I've also, of course, as I always do, downloaded a few new things at the last minute. But I want to take a deeper look as well at triggering your shadow archetypes, what to watch out for in yourself and others. This is a shadow dance, after all, that we tend to do with people. And I want to get you off the dance floor, my dancing queen. So, and kings, or however you self-identify. I'm super excited to do this for you and to be with you. So let me just take a minute and give a shout out to everyone who is here. It is a social live. So I'll just take a minute and acknowledge everyone. I see Polly Burnett, Polly Bennett on YouTube. I see Emily Toulos on Facebook. I see Miriam Wilson on Facebook. Hi, everyone. Feel free to give me a shout out right now. Richard Copeland's in the house. I know you very well. Student in my membership. Monica Zuninga. Nice to see you. Debbie Hutchings. Howdy. Nice to see all of you. Well, I'm glad you're here. Brace yourself. We got a jam-packed tour of insight to get through. And I'm really, really excited about it. So I'm going to take a little drink, make sure all my systems are working out well here. There's a little, I don't know if you all do social lives at all, but it's a lot to coordinate. It's an enormous amount of things to pull together. So I'm streaming live to YouTube and to Facebook, and you can watch this on demand as many times as you'd like. Usually YouTube's a little easier on my YouTube channel to watch things on demand. I just find YouTube a better interface than Facebook. A lot of more video options, and the videos are organized there just as videos, not all this other stuff that might be there as well. So you can definitely check out my YouTube channel if you're not on there, and you can subscribe to updates there. Ring that bell twice. I guess that's what the kids do these days to get updates, all that good stuff. And always, if you can, it helps get the video out into the world. Press that like button if it's speaking to you. Okay, so let's talk about 2021. Shall we? Must we? Yes, we must. I want to frame everything I'm going to say from a much bigger place than I think I ever have for this particular guidance. Usually the Oholidays Survival Strategies is a little more personal. I sit around and talk about your family, which I will do, and your roles to your family and how to kind of negotiate, navigate that, and stay centered, which of course I'm going to do. But this time I really feel like, because of the state of the world, the state of our countries, many of us, the state of, our families, but the state of our politics, the state of our world health, we have to kind of include a little bit more in the scope of Oholiday, empathic, overwhelm, overload, etc. I recently I have these 2 new kittens, and I recently took them to the veterinarian. And it's kind of, I'm beginning to see this theme everywhere I go, whether that's friends of mine that work in the hotel business in Aspen, or whether that's my veterinarian, or whether that's just people at grocery stores that work at grocery stores. There's a real kind of, I was going to say pandemic, but there is a real pandemic, COVID-19. But there's a real issue these days where more and more people are leaving decency behind. Leaving, I would even say, their humanity behind, and going into really severe forms of toxic tribalism. And that goes all the way around the board, from political tribalism, which is very obvious, but also, getting tribal about being pro or anti-vaccine. And I mean, there's so many different tribes, and an increasing, I think, vitriol growing in them all. So first thing to kind of understand about the energy you might be feeling in yourself this particular Oholiday season is that my veterinarian told me that he's had people coming in with animals. I mean, these are loving, the loves of our lives for most of us, and hopefully animals make us kinder people and make us appreciate the moment and, being alive and life and just, the vulnerability of being alive a little bit more and help us feel more connected to our heart. But people are coming into his veterinarian practice and they're just being awful. He was giving me stories of the entitlement and the kind of rudeness and lack of decency people are displaying, which is something he's never seen in his practice. And he's been doing this for 20 years. And similarly, I have friends in the hotel business that say the same thing. And as soon as they get days off, they get out of town because they just need to get away from how hateful the energies have become. So I have a saying that I dropped about a year ago or so. And it's this, live your life as if you were the answer to someone's prayer. And I want to hold that as a sort of beacon of light in this holiday season for you and also for each other, to use it as a metric of your own spirit, your own soul, and most certainly your own grace. How can you live as if you were the answer to someone else's prayer? As soon as I ask that question, wow, that snaps me right into my soul. It takes me out of even my own tendencies to get, judgmental, frustrated, which is human and normal. And we can embrace all of that with compassion. But I think societally, culturally, we're tipping out so far. And you may be feeling that this year. If you're an empathic soul, you've been feeling it since, I'd say, 2019, if not 2016, depending on where you live and what's activated in the psyche of your country, your city, your town. But I want to first start big here because I think that we don't often reference past our own field of what we're experiencing and what we're feeling. We forget that we are energy systems. We receive from the environment energetics all the time. And if you're an empathic soul, if you're wired for more bandwidth, that's exactly what that means. You get more energy, more data, more emotional territory in your own field that may not even truly be yours at all. So some of my coaching and my counsel is going to involve this year a need to look that broad in scope and begin to understand daily as an inventory of your own system, how you are impacted by the energetics of our times. And while I will give a bit of a tip here shortly on taking a social media or news break, you can do that. It can help. But at the end of the day, you're still connected to all the energy. And it's how life is organized. There's not a lot we can do about it, but we can relate to it differently and we can create a certain energetic boundary with it, but we're still connected. We're all in this life, in this web of life together. There's ways to dimensionally buttress yourself in a certain sense so that you're not as overwhelmed or bouleversé, as they say in French, by all of this energy coming at you. But I want to put that on your map as something to right now take into stride, take into consideration, get in your awareness. How has the energy of our times been affecting you? Personally, I have to keep mindful myself of this because we're in a dark night. We're in a dark night. Society is in a dark night. My own country is in a political dark night. We're in a collective dark night. I don't know anywhere in the world where I can look and there isn't a dark night. And one of the reasons for that is our whole climate's changing and our political landscapes are being triggered and changing. So I have a lot to say on that, and from an astrological cycle lens that I'm actually going to be doing this Sunday, if you're interested, for free. You got to go to my website, make sure my newsletter to get signed up for that. I'll be sending out an email actually tomorrow for everyone to get signed up. So if you're not on my newsletter, get your butt to ohotto.com. I got a lot of good stuff coming your way. But I won't go deeper into that other than just to generally say, look, how do you stay illumined in a dark night? That's got to be one of your questions, actually, of how you get through the Oholiday season. But it goes beyond that. It's like, how do we get through life in life as we now know it to be? How are we going to get through this dark night without going dark ourselves? Yeah, that matters. It's in the room. And I'm going to hopefully light you up like a Christmas tree and get you all illumined through some of these tips and just insights and things to do, mystical pivots to make. But that really needs to be understood in the deepest way. You can sense it for yourself right now. Now, that said, this is kind of why I would say this year is perhaps one of the worst for overwhelm and bad juju vibes. Last year wasn't a lot better either. I think it's getting darker. I sense it getting darker, actually. So I know, doom and gloom, but we're going to light up. Don't worry. But we've got to address, the darkness in the room, or it gets the upper hand. And I want you to be empowered. This is about empowering you with a survival strategy on how to negotiate this time and hopefully really make it a time of light for yourself, over the next month or so. Just really come into little tips and things that can make it really light for you. Part of that, though, and that's what I'm addressing, is to make this holiday season, holiday season, light. You've got to know how not to go dark. So that said, let's talk about triggering, shall we? What do you do when you're triggered during the holidays, which tends to any time of the year, rather any year in our lives, be the most triggering time of the year. It just tends to be the most triggering time of the year because a lot of times we're back with our family systems. We're back in our old roles in our family systems. And if we're not back at home with our family and our old roles in our family systems, we're certainly probably experiencing some of that in our family of creation that we might have now in our lives, whether that's you have a partner, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, animals, neighbors, spiritual community, whatever it is you might be part of. Triggering comes, kind of fast and furious during this time of year. So let's talk about why. First of all, let's talk about what triggering is, because I think that needs to be a bit understood before I can give you some medicine for it. Now, triggering is many things, actually. There's many types of triggering, and I've taught about a new kind of triggering I actually identified in my work with people that I call mystical triggering. I have a masterclass called the Empathic Soul and Love Rebel, which is open right now, by the way. It only opens once a year. I'll do a little promo for that shortly, where I go deep into what mystical triggering is and what it means to be an empathic soul and the archetypal medicine you need and multisensory psychology that you need to negotiate life as an empathic soul. So hold that thought. But there's mystical triggering. But primarily what I'm concerned about in this particular medicine is shadow triggering and traumatic triggering, perhaps. And that's when a shadow trigger is when someone triggers you in an archetypal shadow dance dynamic that is founded on you playing a certain role to them and them to you. And it's a power structure that is all about who has power, who doesn't, and keeping a certain power system in play. Whenever we look to our shadow archetypal matches, what we're looking at are power matches. So we want to see, all right, and not only that, we're looking at esteem matches, and that's kind of almost saying the same thing. So you want to look at, in any shadow dance dynamic, anyone that has the capacity to trigger you. My immediate thing is get archetypal, and then from archetypal eyes, look at this as a power exchange. Either you want power from them in a vampiric sense, I'm going to take it to me, or they want power from you in a vampiric sense. Typically, that's the baseline of a shadow dance. So also something to understand is that you have archetypes that become magnetic matches to other people in a shadow way. Now, that's a whole course. In fact, I've taught a whole course on that, but I want you just to, for now, sense something simple like this. All right. I'm laughing because this is an archetype I'm actually currently evaluating in myself. How about the overgiver? So let's go into this archetype a little bit. And it's certainly appropriate for the time of the year where we give gifts, right? And we're giving. Giving gifts, being giving is beautiful. It's lovely. I think first we have to, of course, as the cliche goes, have it to give, absolutely. But also we have to understand why we give. And in overgiving, for example, it's a shadow archetype, meaning it's about you're doing something that has very little boundaries. It's a pattern that has very little boundaries. And it's about trying to get esteem or back to a sense of safety, security, esteem, and survival by overgiving. So I'll overgive so you'll like me. I'll overgive. That's code for I'll overgive so you don't abandon me. So this is where you start to look and all these things. I mean, my gosh, are you just getting a sense of all that comes online in the holiday time? It's like, dude, you're just on one archetype, and I think I just downloaded 5 more that are part of my overgiver team. Yeah, just how it goes. But what is helpful is to understand the why of what you give. Why do you give what you give? Do you give from a sense of I'm enough? Therefore, let me give out of my worth to people. Or do you give from I'm not enough? I don't really feel I'm enough. I want them to like me, so I'm going to give so they don't run away from me, so that they like me, so they don't abandon me. Now, what do you think an overgiver matches with as a shadow match? A vampire, a narcissist, someone who possibly a victim as well, by the way, someone who exhibits a lot of, how about this? Let me make it simple. An overgiver matches with a shadow taker. So you might find that you're being triggered because, and this is how you know you're triggered, you give, and then you realize all these people you've given to, or the person you've given everything to, you know what? They don't appreciate me. I never get a thank you, or rarely do. And there's no sense of appreciation, or they don't give back. That's your sign that, okay, you're kind of in the overgiver zone here. And that would certainly be something I'd look to during this holiday season. So you could get triggered by someone saying, now, oh, you're going to play victim now that you're kind of upset with me because I don't appreciate you for all your overgiving. I never asked for this. That's like the thing people usually say to an overgiver. And it may be true. It may be true. And then that just like blows you up even more, right? Because what do you mean? So what? You never asked for it. Don't you have a heart? Well, I'm sure they do have a heart, but here's the thing. This is your territory. And that kind of triggering, it's a shadow trigger, gets you into your own patterns. And you can take that example and go anywhere in your patterns. You could take that example to your perfectionist. When it gets triggered up during the holidays, like mine sure does, when you have that to-do list and you've got all these gifts you got to give for people and you got all these things you got to do and all the stuff you're supposed to do. It's Christmas, it's Hanukkah, it's whatever holiday you're in. And, we're human, man. We can't do it all. We can't do it all. And then we turn in with our perfectionism on ourselves. So the actual experience of the pressures and the schedules and everything else blows up and triggers your perfectionism. And then you start thinking perfectionist thoughts, which are really self-violent. How you're not good enough, how you're not measuring up, how you got to get this done. And why didn't you get that done yesterday? And you start going down that whole checklist of self-hate, self-judgment, and criticism. And ooh, ow, right? So I got some medicine for that coming up. But this is just to show you, if you get into a shadow trigger, shadow trigger is the first thing we always got to do. First, get archetypal. You want to look at, and what does that mean? You want to look at the pattern that is active and then give it a name. It's actually that simple. If you're overgiving, well, I'm looking at the overgiver archetype. If you're really judgmental in a shadow way with yourself, well, I could be looking at the perfectionist or shadow judge. If you are codependent and you feel everybody is a codependent empath, because that's a pattern of how you move in the world, Well, I'm looking at the codependent empath and probably the victimized codependent empath. If you feel right now, based on what I just said about life in the world right now, that I don't know how I'm going to get through this life. It's dark and I feel it all. And I'm just going to collapse here. And this sucks and isn't fair. Well, I am looking at the victimized codependent empath. So none of this is right or wrong. And it's never useful to make yourself wrong for shadow archetypes and just your shadow generally. The more you judge these parts of you, the more that they stop talking to you, and the darker and more fire breathing they actually become. It takes compassion. This is the mystical pivot. Compassion to go, hey, okay, I don't like any of you. And you don't have to like them to have compassion, by the way. I don't like any of you, but you're part of me. And you are at my round table of self. And as I look to each force here and each pattern, I just have to say welcome. But you know what? Codependent, victimized empath, I'm tired of you framing my mental set every day. Perfectionist, I'm super tired of your self-inventory from hell. Overgiver, give it up. Stop. So what we want to do with a shadow archetype like this, ideally, is neutralize it. You do not get rid of archetypes. Any of them, you don't. You can deactivate them. And I'm actually speaking in grounded neuroscience in terms of how your brain wires with archetypal patterns. You don't get rid of neural pathways once they've been formed or forged in your brain in the way that an archetypal pattern does do that. A habit does that. What you can do is stop using that pathway. It'll go dormant and you'll create another pathway in your brain that then gets on with a different pattern, a different archetypal force. Our brains literally tell this truth. This is neuroscience, and it's also archetypal neuroscience. Anytime you find yourself wanting to get rid of anything, I want you to recognize immediately your perfectionist is talking. Immediately. Because it's only the wounded ego and its recruitment of the perfectionist to manage your safety, security, esteem, and survival that's going to talk that way. Your soul doesn't talk to you that way. I guarantee you. Your soul says, hey, all of you has value. All of you is part of God, all of you, or the divine, or whatever your conceptions of the divine are, and all of you gets to be here. So, one tip here for the Oholidays, make room for all of you. This is going to be a salve in terms of your triggering. Because as soon as you get triggered, you're going to spin into your head and start to do a judgment on yourself. It's what we're taught to do, actually. Instead of just being with the trigger, containing it, and going into a space of curiosity with it. Curiosity and compassion. Why am I triggered? What is this managing? Every pattern in you manages something. Remember that. All of them. And in this sense, it's usually, especially with shadow archetypes, something in the hood of safety, security, esteem, survival, and your abandonment fear. So you're going to ask yourself every time you experience a trigger, what does this manage in me? So why do we get triggered? Well, because we've got this thing called the human psyche, and it operates on certain laws. And it's a system of consciousness that our soul's working with. And one of the laws is that anything unintegrated or unacknowledged or unloved or unaccepted gets kind of put in this dark room called the shadow. And it becomes a fire-breathing dragon a lot of the times. So when someone triggers you, they've basically, through the laws of your own human psyche, activated in you a shadow archetype. Now, beyond shadow archetypes, I want to add another, I would say, form of triggering. So there's shadow triggering and there's traumatic triggering, and sometimes they bleed over into each other. Traumatic triggering is when we experience a time warp in our psyche that's triggered by something in the present moment that takes us back to a trauma. And that is something that can happen a lot during the Oholidays, because what happens is maybe you lost someone during Christmas or the New Year or whatever holiday you celebrate or don't. It was just this time of year, something happened. Maybe it takes you back to childhood trauma during this time of the year. Maybe just the season alone triggers the trauma of losing a loved one, a spouse, triggers a sense of loneliness, a sense of despair. So as much as this can be a time of, joy, and a lot of that's frankly manufactured, right? It's manufactured by what people are trying to sell and et cetera. And some of it's genuine, but it's also a time of triggering for many people. A lot of hard things that have happened in their lives and a lot of traumas they've been through. That's okay. So if you experience traumatic triggering, the gift of, and I always feel like all triggering holds an opportunity for transformation. Our tendency is to deal with the triggering by making the person who triggered us wrong, projecting onto them the that's the shadow dance. There's your shadow dance. Here we go. Or we medicate ourselves. There's your over drinking during the holidays. We have different coping and survival strategies that we'll default to, especially if they've already gotten traction in our psyche as something we've used before. And we're just going to go to those. And just let it all be okay. You're human. You're doing that's just what humans tend to do without a more psycho-spiritual, mystical option of intervention and shift. I would never make yourself wrong if you, as much as you can help it, for your triggering, for your coping strategies out of the triggering. But all things have a karma. And that's just a law, a creative law here, that if you act out of past trauma in a way that self-sabotages you, that's just the karma. It's technical. You're still enough. You're still worthy, even as you overeat with your food addict during the holidays or overdrink. You're still enough. You're never not enough. And the more that we can cultivate that in relationship to our triggering, that's when we really have a chance to shift it and really heal it. So in traumatic triggering, the goal is the possibility offered is to get your system into present time by, yes, addressing history, but not living in it. And that's a little bit beyond the scope of this Oholidays offering. I've taught about that in multiple courses, but that is something I would say, we go back, we time warp back to our 5-year-old self that experienced that hard thing on Christmas, or that hard thing during Hanukkah, or that hard thing during Kwanzaa, that hard thing. And we go, ooh, I'm back to 5 years old when I didn't get any presents, or when my family was broke. That was my family. So it's okay. It's okay to go that space in yourself and know that you're still enough. But the option to get you back here in the now is literally present at that moment. And that's why we go to therapy, and that's why we get help. So I would encourage, as part of how to handle your triggering, seek out help. Therapist, psychotherapist, psychiatrist, perhaps even if that fits, or spiritual director, but seek help in any way you can. Now, what should you do when you're triggered? That's a really, really good question. First, recognize it's what's going on with your system. And let me just tell you something as a truth that I've seen in most triggering. Let's go to shadow dancing. If you're triggered and it's coming from, let's set the stage. Let's deepen this a little bit, and I'm going to kind of recruit another thing that I'm going to maybe come back and polish up on later. That's in my list of things to talk about here. How do you resist falling back into old roles and dimensional dynamics with family members? This is very common during the Oholidays. It's part of triggering. So I'm weaving triggering into this next, and then talking about what to do when you're triggered. First of all, what is a dimensional dynamic? What do I mean by that? Sounds like fancy talk. It means that we literally come from a certain womb of reality with our family. And I just kind of let you into a little bit of my history with my family in that dimension of our sort of poverty. But we all come from a certain dimension of family energy. And in our families, we all played certain roles that comprised the family system and the family system's dynamics. A dimension is simply, if you will, the container of all of that. It's a container of many things, but most notably, it's the family's reality. Now, I want you to think about your roles that you played to your family when you were growing up as a child. And that's where I'll have to say, get archetypal. So were you the fixer in the family, the peacemaker in the family? And here's a very common one, the adult child in the family. Were you the scapegoat in the family? Was that your role? Were you the sort of golden child, and sort of all this projected expectation was put on you to shine? That, and you were sort of redeeming the, or the family's value, or continuing the legacy of a family's value. So of course, little John's going to grow up to be a doctor because his dad's a surgeon. And, it's that kind of like pressure of not even asking little John, hey, what's your soul here to do? What's your soul contract? What's your destiny? No, it's assumed. This is what you'll become. This is who you'll be, So whatever your roles were in the family, those really code in deep, and they become a lot of what we take into our adult lives and shapeshift perhaps a little bit around. But at the core, we would always come back to that childhood archetype in you, the child archetype. So were you an abandoned child, a magical child, an orphan child, abused child, wounded child? And I feel like we have children. So I can name about 3 or 4 that comprise my childhood. And they're all equally, I think, part of what forms my sense of the child archetype in me. Now, that said, when I say, how do you resist falling back into old dimensional dynamics and roles? I mean exactly that. How do you not go home for the holidays, or have family come see you, or engage with certain family members, or maybe friends? We tend to replicate roles in our adult life with other people that weren't from our family of origin. So anyone in your life, I'm going to consider as fair game here in this. Now, how do you resist falling back to an old role? And let me tell you a little bit of what happens that I've seen. And I strongly sense this applies to you because you're watching me, and I'm a pretty unique teacher. And so if you're in my classroom, I'm assuming and making an intuitive assumption here that you're here because you kind of get already what I'm putting down. So you've already done some inner work. You've already kind of done some questioning of what your roles are and continue to be. And you've evolved out of some of them, right? So then you go back to your family, but guess what? To them, you haven't evolved at all. You're still the fixer. You're still the scapegoat. You're still the rescuer. You're still the adult child. You're still, and this is where things blow up, is when we go back to a family and they're still in the same dimension that you left 10 years ago, 20 years ago. They're still the same roles. Very little evolution, if any. This happens. Maybe you're one of the few where everyone healed and evolved. And people have this misinterpretation of how morphic resonance works in transformational dynamics. So there's this idea that, well, if I get healthier, I'm healing my family. There's truth in that. But there's also a misunderstanding of how it actually works. Let me clue you in. That this morphic field we're all connected to, right, is supposed to kind of resonate to our species even and bump their evolution up. Yeah, there's truth in that. But when it comes to family, what I've seen is this. You grow into let's say you come from a family of alcoholics, you get sober. And a lot comes with that. You move out of the adult child archetype. You move out of the shadow victim archetype. You move out of the same stories that used to be you as an addict, but you go home to your alcoholic parents or family, and they're still in this dimension. And you, if we listen to a lot of what's said in spirituality and self-help and also certain other circles about how people heal when we heal, we would think, oh, well, I'm going to go home and my family's going to be healed and my mom will finally get sober and my dad will get sober. And actually, let me tell you something. Oftentimes the exact opposite happens. They actually get worse. Because you got to understand how light and shadow work in a family system. If I start to light myself up and blow up my mystical identity, my mystical center, my soul, I start to become light. That light shines, yes, to my family. But what it does first and foremost, it illumines how dark they are. No one in your life that is still in a dark dimension just magically lights up because you do. In fact, your light lights in a way where they realize how dark they are. And if they don't have a therapist or a sponsor or any kind of voice in their life that says, even in your alcoholism, you're enough. Even in your being a wicked queen mother to your daughter, you're enough. They don't have a voice of esteem, soul esteem in their life that says, look, you're still enough. When that voltage from your healing hits their system, the things that manage their shame, the things that manage their wounds amp up to cope with that. So I want to make you aware, my dear light being, of the way this actually on the ground level tends to work. Sometimes the light will open up a parent, a sibling or someone in your life that you heal, and they get a little, blast of that, and it kind of does attune them a little bit. But it's usually because there's a little bit of an interventional angel there whispering soul esteem into their ear. So I want you to be aware that when you go home for the holidays, or when you've done a year during COVID of work on yourself, and you've really gone to your own, Hades and up and back, and now you're carrying the mythic treasure Joseph Campbell talks about, and it's more or less just, I'm enough. Ooh. And you take that shit home to your family and you start trying to relate. And the immediate thing they're going to do is try to dim you down, because the voltage illumines their shadow too much. They cannot handle it. Literally, they don't have the skill set, they don't have the support, and they don't have enough esteem to actually handle your light. And it sounds so paradoxical, but it's absolutely accurately true that to do shadow work requires a certain baseline of esteem. It's a really tricky thing that I also talk about in a lot of courses. You have to have enough esteem to look at your dark side. And the reason why we don't look at our dark side is because we don't have enough esteem. There's a way out. That's for another class or chat. But I want you to understand this. The way that you resist falling back into old roles is, one, you've got to remember you are not that old role. That was a survival strategy and pattern and archetype that managed at the time your safety, security, esteem, survival, and fears of abandonment, but it was never who you are. What the family will want, or whomever the system that's triggering you will want, is for you to trigger back to the identity of that role. If you stay out of identity the whole time you're home for the holidays, you won't be triggered. And when they try to get you back in that identity by using the usual power shadow dance plays, they'll just bounce off you, because you'll see it for what it is. And this isn't about, I'm going to shadow judge them, I see what you're trying to do. It's, oh man, let there just be love and light in me. And let me just give you a hug. as you bring your, wicked king or queen energy toward me, mom or dad, or as you bring your usual manipulations toward me to scapegoat me and make me the bad child, that all I got is love for you. Because all that shows me is how much pain you're in and how painful it must be to be you. And if you can stay in that perspective, that's how you live as if you're the answer to someone's prayer. So, what roles did you play? Get a list out. This is your Oholiday Survival Strategy coaching. Make a list of the roles. Know them well, because I can guarantee you will get invitations to come back to them as identity and also shadow dance in them. It's coming if it ain't already here. And the best medicine, and it's cliche but true, but let's get some grit around it, is I got to stay connected to me. As soon as I disconnect from me, game over. I will go back. I'll just default to the role I was born into, that I adapted into. I'll default to reaction versus choice. I'm going to default. You will, and that's okay. You can still get back to your throne of self and centeredness even then. But let's prevent that, and let's go into the holidays knowing, okay, I gotta watch out for some things that tip me out. Supplant my throne, usurp the throne. Now, this is a little bit of how you can resist falling back into old roles and dimensions with family members. And it can really work like a charm. And so try it out. So recapping, you're going to know that where they're coming from is a place of disconnection and pain in themselves. You're going to remind yourself you're enough and really feel that. Put your hand on your heart and your stomach on your belly. Take a few deep breaths. Okay, I'm enough. They don't believe they're enough. Okay, but I'm not going to shadow dance with that. I'm not going to fall back to the old identity. That was a coping, way to be in the world, and a pattern I recruited and my subconscious did to survive family, but it's not who I am. So, okay, I'm going to just give them a little grace. And you know what I like to do is when I see anyone in my life kind of trying to get me back to an old role, or see them in one of their shadow archetypes, I like to just go, it just looks like you need a hug. And can I just tell you how awesome and flawsome and enough you are? You're just enough. So I don't know if that helps, but so that can really be helpful. And I sometimes need that, for myself from someone outside of me, especially when I get amped up in perfectionism. And that's my usual holiday default. That's the one I got to really look out for in myself. 'Cause the stress and the deadlines and the pressure and the promotions and the social lives and the Now, I'm going to add another element here that I'm going to call creating and using the protected zone of pause. And it applies to what I just talked about in triggering, but also in other areas. One of the things that you really want to watch out for during this time, the holiday season, is getting your system sped up. We end up, and I want you to think of this for yourself. Make this real, because it's happened, and it's probably happening or will happen in about a week as we near, the holidays of Christmas and the New Year and other things. So is when we've got so much going on, usually what that means for our nervous system is it speeds up. We speed up. Our minds speed up. We start to get in that kind of anxiety and that mental analysis and judgment, and we spin up here. Now, let me just say, in this state, you're not intuitively clear. You're not centered. You're not connected to yourself, I'm going to say adequately, usually. And out of that, you're not going to make nourishing, self-connecting choices or take nourishing and self-connecting actions. Not right or wrong, it's technical. Think of a time when you've spun up here about something and you overthought, you overworried, you over-oracled. Okay. You were doing one reading with your cards after, I don't know, one astrology chart. And what usefulness came out of that? What useful guidance emerged out of that? Probably none. And that's my point. There's not a lot of usefulness in this zone of yourself. It's not really a zone of power. And it's where you will be in power and powerlessness mix up. You will not know where your power is. You'll mistake something in your life as I should have power there when it's not possible for you to have power there. And then you won't look to see where you do have power and get on that train and get some traction in getting your shit done. So pause applies two ways. One, if you feel the speed of your system amping up, you're going to hear me in your ear saying, listen, remember that pause I was talking about on that social life? This is the time. You're going to say to yourself, I need 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute nap. 5 minutes. Commit to the gift of a 5-minute pause. You're worth it. And I don't care where you are, whether you're shopping, whether you're at work, whether you're, at home in a family amping that's happening. You're going to say, look, out of self-love and self-connection, I'm going to take a 5-minute pause. I'm two in here, and I'm going to go and I'm going to breathe and just breathe. That's it. I'm going to put my hand on my heart, my hand on my belly, and I'm just going to breathe for 5 minutes. This isn't about trying to control your thoughts. Just slow down. Speed is not useful in this regard. There's times when speed might be useful for your system and your thinking processes and whatever it is you're up to. This is not one of them. And when you begin to slow down, what you also do, just going to front load a little here, you're actually giving yourself back to conscious choice. Let's see. How do I want to respond to that power play my mom just made? Or that little shame-based diatribe my sister was whispering in my ear? Or that, manipulation my spouse is trying to get at because they're stressed too. And that's what they do when they're stressed. They try to control me. So how do I want to actually respond to that? What's the most useful way to move here? What's the next optimal action or choice? That comes out of the pause. Another thing I want you to consider, and this relates to triggering, I don't want you to hear any of the guidance I'm giving you. And it'll be hard not to help it because it's how we're trained culturally. And I know I have to remind myself of this as well. I don't want you to hear everything I'm saying as yet just another way to go perfectionist on yourself. So, well, Robert says pause, so I gotta do this right. No, you're missing the point. There's nothing to get right or wrong. So this is not a paradigm of right or wrong. This is a technical paradigm, first of all. This is technical survival strategies. They're not right or wrong. And yes, there's karmic consequence and karmic, momentum here that's going to do what it does, but there's nothing right or wrong here. Rather, this pause and triggering is about you taking a minute and saying to anybody when you're feeling triggered, I'm giving you permission to have this boundary. I'm giving you permission to have a voice and say this. Listen, I need 5 minutes. I'm overwhelmed. I need to get to my own self. So if you find yourself in an argument, if you find yourself getting an invitation to shadow dance, if you find yourself already on the shadow dance floor, you're going to say, I got to take 5 minutes out here. I got to regroup. So I got to hold you to this because it's not just a matter of someone else pressuring you to stay on the dance floor. It's your own wounded ego wanting to have power, get even, get the next jab in, say the next cutting thing. You got to hold yourself to account and go, look, I could stay and throw the next barb at you because I got a good one coming that makes you wrong and me right. Or I could just say, listen, I'm going to live as if I'm the answer to my own prayer and your prayer. And I'm going to get off this dance floor and just take a pause because I'm not coming from love here. When you're shadow dancing with somebody, when you are making them wrong, and you want a great example of exactly what I'm talking about, look no further than Twitter. Look no further than some of the, I don't even know what to call them, comments under someone's YouTube video. When somebody doesn't actually say the nice things and they say something just critical or stupid. Anytime you're in a shadow trigger, in a shadow archetype out of that trigger, you're not likely to be too loving to anybody. And that includes you. And that's a technical truth. That's not to make you right or wrong, but it's to empower you with, do I want to come from a loving place in myself in this interaction? What is the next loving move? And sometimes all we can muster is, I'm just going to leave the situation and not say anything. And brava, fantastic. There's no perfectionist spiritual mandate here that says you've got to stay in your trigger and engage and hold the center and let them come at you. Get out of there. Hey, and you know what I'm going to give you permission to do? If that means you actually leave and go back to your home from your family, that's what that means. You have to know for yourself, as part of this Oholiday survival strategy, what your limits are. How much being back in the old family dimension can you actually handle? There's what you'd like to handle, then there's what you can really handle. If you're going to stay self-connected, you have to tell the truth about what you can really handle, and then use that as your guidance of what your next steps are. The should handle, or I should be more spiritual, or I should be more along, I should be more loving and compassionate. So what? Maybe you're not. Do you think shoulding it's helping? It's making you more wrong. So if you feel like, I need to actually not have dinner with you guys tonight, and I just need some self-care. You don't have to make it anything, no major dramatic statement of I just need some self-care. That's all. I'll see you guys in the morning. Now, I'm going to give you some shadow dance pivots in case you get on that dance floor. Before I start breakdancing. A lot of this comes through how you speak and language, the power of language. And one of the things that getting archetypal will give you is a chance to look at the language someone's using and the archetype in them or in anyone that would speak that way. So if someone is coming from, you should have done this, you shouldn't have done that. Well, there's a couple options, shadow judge or perfectionist. Maybe victim as well. The victim lives in a lot of should and shouldn'ts, the shadow victim. This shouldn't have happened. This should have happened. This isn't fair. This is unfair. Just no language. Archetypes are revealed oftentimes just through the language coming out of someone's mouth, including your own. So I'd pay attention. What's the language here? Next. There's a way, like an Aikido master, that you can take someone's shadow momentum and shift it right back at them through love. But you can't do it through the shadow dance or the opposing shadow archetypal match that they're trying to activate in you to come at them. Not going to happen. But if you were to say something like this, let's just say you've got a sibling, friend, spouse maybe, someone in your life that tends to be a bully when they're starting to feel that they're powerless or frustrated or vulnerable. They go to the bully archetype. It's just their adaptation. And then they start to bully you through bully language. Usually it's emasculating things they say, disempowering things they say. It's stuff to strip you of esteem and make anything in the feminine side of your psyche wrong, and as if that's vulnerably your detriment. So if someone starts bullying you, what you can say to them is this: the best way to always, truly, in a lot of ways, deal with a shadow archetype coming at you is through a question. So if a bully's coming at you, go, the way you're talking to me right now and acting toward me is how bullies act. Why would you want to bully me? That's part one. Wait for it, there's more. What that does immediately is it puts up a mirror, because all shadow dancing requires projection and engaging someone in the projection. So you're going, hey, look at you. Look at what we just said. Only bullies talk that way. Part two. And here's the thing. I'm continuing this conversation. I really love you. You're my brother. You're my sister. You're my spouse. You're my best friend. I really love you. And I want to feel more connected to you right now during this holiday time. But when you speak to me in a way that intends to bully me, I actually don't feel connected to you or want to connect to you at all. And I really want to connect. So can you speak to me in a way that's really able to express whatever the bully's trying to express for you, but doesn't attack me, doesn't put me down, doesn't make me wrong? Can you say it in another way? I want to have a great holiday with you. I'm here in presence with you. Life is short. And I just want you to know I want a connection with you because I love you. Can you feel the power of that approach? That's a mystical pivot through the mystical lover archetype, might I add, where you say to someone, listen, you know what? You're really speaking to me like a perfectionist does. You have this expectation I'd be perfect, and you're making all these statements of how I'm not measuring up. And I'm just wondering, why are you speaking to me that way? Is there something going on with you? Are you okay? Another shadow dance move. Or you could say, hey, listen, I know you want me to jump in, and you're throwing out all these, these hooks with bait on them so that I get hooked into another rescue mission. But I've done so many of those with this family and with you, and I just don't think they ever helped anybody. And frankly, I'm not doing them anymore. I'm not going to rescue you or anyone in this family from their own karma. How else would you ever learn? And I want to feel close to you. So is there a way we can relate that doesn't involve me taking responsibility for what is clearly, something that they need to look at? Now that might get a little ruffly, that particular approach, but just summing it all up, you want to say to somebody, listen, identify the archetype and then get into its language and speak outside of it. And here's what you got to recognize in yourself in the triggering pieces. If you're speaking from old roles, you're done already. If you have already gotten yourself into an old role, you've already, relapsed into an old role or reverted back to an old role, the game's already over. You're in the shadow dance. This is not going to be the medicine yet that'll get you out. The medicine is the pause. I'm all right. I'm in the rescuer role. And now I'm in my shadow judge and my perfectionist. And yeah, maybe I want to bully a few people now. Okay, that's the time for you to go, look, I got to pause, take inventory and responsibility for my side and my side alone. Because let's jump into power and powerlessness. One of the things that will keep you so pristinely clear on your shadow dancing, when someone's trying to come for you, get you into this triggery mix and mashup, an archetypal mashup. One of the things that will keep you so in the pocket is I need to know where I have power and where I don't. So let me give you some metrics of power and powerlessness. 1, you never, ever will have the power to control someone's process. You can influence people in their process, absolutely, but you can never control it. That's a complete illusion. We're not given that power as human beings spiritually, because that is against the soul's journey of its own lessons of its own growth and of its own co-creative path. So you never have power to control someone in their process. So you want to ask yourself, all right, am I trying to control someone in their process right now? Let's apply that immediately to something I'm sure is somewhat active in your life. Are you trying to control whether someone likes you or not? That's the same as controlling their process with you. You'll never have power there. You know, if someone is meant to be connected to you, they'll like you. But if they're not, they might not like you. And both are just fine. Neither have anything to do with your worth. So go down the line of all the processes and others that you perhaps try to control, or that they try to control you as well. You can't control these things. And there's other things, might I add, if we went to the collective level, which I brought up in the very beginning here, that you can't control either. There's so much we can't control in life. And yet there's a lot we can. So you do want to keep this kind of inventory in yourself during the holiday season. Where am I? And where do I have power? Where don't I? Where am I trying to have power? Where I'll never have it. Where am I trying to have power where I can't have it right now? Maybe someday I can, but I can't have it right now. So let's go back to triggering and how to handle it when you're overwhelmed and you're in a role. I'm going to say in that moment, you probably don't have the power or empowerment to shift out of that identity whilst you're still shadow dancing with someone. You need to take a pause. And then you might realize, oh boy, I don't think I'm going to get out of this identity while I'm in this house. I just don't have the empowerment. You can do one of two things. One, soul prayer that up to the heavens, the grace grids, and say, shoot me with some juice. Shift me out of this old role. Get me back to home base, to my queen, to my king, to my mystical parents and my safe child. And that might work. Or get out of there. There's nothing that says you have to stay. There's no mandate from heaven that says stay in an abusive, disempowering dynamic. And if you leave, you're just not spiritual or evolved enough. Get out. Get out. So if you want to decline invitations to shadow dance, this is a good approach. All right, what kind of power exchange you trying to have with me? Where am I powerful? Where am I powerless? Let me and hey, wisdom to know the difference, okay, serenity prayer, but come on. This is like the shadow dance serenity prayer. You don't have power. And let me just take a step into collective dynamics from here, because I think this is where we can clean up some psychic hygiene and some enmeshments and triggering and shadow dancing at that level. If someone is in a certain triggered, let's say, which is very popular these days, collapse in a conspiracy theory, or if they are triggered in a certain worldview politically, or if they are tribal that way, I got news for you. You don't have power to change that. You can be a loving reference point in their process with it. But I'll tell you, as a gay man growing up in the 90s, in my young adulthood, I never had the power to make a fundamentalist Christian believe I wasn't going to go to hell. And I knew it. So I didn't waste my time trying to convince all these fundamentalist Christians that being gay was, one, not a choice, any more than anyone chooses their sexuality. I don't know, someone wake up one day and go, oh, I'm straight, gay. I'm not sure. How about gay? Really? Really? I digress. But the point is, I realized where I had power and where I didn't. And I realized what I could do was every interaction with someone that was in that archetypal reality, that dimension of black, white, fire and brimstone, heaven, hell, good, evil. Ooh, that's a rough and tumble zone to live in. But anytime I ever realized someone was in that, what I could do is I could just be the embodiment of a loving person. And yes, absolutely declare my value and my nature with esteem. But I didn't have to make them wrong. Why would I waste my time doing that? Rather, trust that in some karmic classroom evolutionary organization, maybe this lifetime, maybe not, they will get their heart cracked open to see the true teachings of Christ, which certainly don't say throw out your gay or lesbian child to the streets. And I know many a fundamentalist Christian that shifted their whole entire worldview because of one of their children being gay, and that not sitting right in their heart. So similarly with your family members, anyone in your life, and a lot of this political tribalism that's so toxic and awful and has people fantasizing about violence. You don't have power there. Other than I'm going to be a loving person in every interaction I have with people. And I'm going to practice, and it is a practice, seeing everyone as all having value. No matter what they believe, no matter who they are, they all had their passport stamped to come to Earth School, just like I did. And they have a right to be here. We don't have to like that, but it's still true. So how can you then live in power and powerlessness in this time? If you live from what I just said, that sort of centered truth about power and powerlessness with people, your field, energetic field, is going to kick out a lot of the dark because you're not in the dimensional paradigm that invites it in. You're not in the us versus them paradigm. You're in, hey, I'm in the all is one. We all matter. We all have value paradigm. And that doesn't mean I won't draw a sword and choose my side when the battle comes, because I'm a love rebel. But it does mean you're not messing up my vibe and darkening me down. When I fight from the light. And it's the good fight. The fight I must fight on behalf of holism, on behalf of we are all connected, on behalf of we're all enough. I'll draw my sword for that any day. So don't take me as someone that won't get in there and do what I got to do to bear the torch of Christ consciousness, actually. But I'm also not going to sit around here and come at you on Twitter and come at you on YouTube and make stupid, demeaning remarks. No, that's not what the light does. All right. That's for your Christmas tree, that kind of light. Now, keep in mind that shadow dancing is something we experience not just during the Oholidays, and everything I'm saying would follow in any time of the year. But this is where we really get to see it, and keep in mind that greater collective thing is happening, and it is affecting all of us every day. It is really challenging right now to not feel depressed and despairing, and you got to remember a lot of animal species are dying on this planet right now. We're feeling that. You think you don't feel that? You're connected to all of it. You don't think you don't feel a war in another country? Of course you do. In some way. And this is about how can you be with all of that and not go dark? And that's a big ass question that I'm partially answering, just at least enough for your family. But I wanted to say something. Now listen, I've got a course you really that said you might want to check out, and don't go anywhere because I'm so not done. I've still got a couple more things, and I got the top 5 psychic hygiene tips for this year. And I also want to talk about handling holiday overwhelm with a formula that I kind of invented, half got from a therapist once. So listen, I've got this really massive class that just opened up and only opens once a year. And it really tracks with a lot of what I'm saying, and it's called the Empathic Soul and Love Rebel Masterclass. Now, this is a massive, complete reboot of everything you've ever thought about empathy, everything you've ever thought about energy and empathic senses. And it takes on founding a completely new multisensory psychology that I think every empathic soul really has to understand and learn. This is 40% off right now with the Oholiday sale, and it does close in a couple weeks. So if you are someone where a lot of what I've been saying has been zinging you up, down, and all around, then I really want you to go look at this now. There's a link in the video description at the very, 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 very bottom. I'll move it up later. It'll take you to the landing page for this course. On the landing page for this course is a 2-hour video that you can check out that guides you through. It's an introduction. I don't ever want you in a class because you work hard for your money. I don't ever want you in a class that isn't right for you. I'm more than happy to share robust amounts of content for you to make that determination and then see if your budget works with it and go for it. So there's a 2-hour, in itself, massive amounts of insights video there for you to go check out. So check it out. If a lot of what I'm saying, a lot of things I'm drawing from and applying here come from my other master classes. So if anything is like, ooh, does he have some more on that? I've got classes. This is the Oholiday sale. Go look at my website. Go to the Holo Compass courses. Go to join my membership. We've got intentional synchronicity going on right now, and that's only available in this masterclass. And I just got to lesson 11 where we are doing divination, and you got 10 lessons on demand ready for you right now. Join. It's really not that expensive. This is the membership. It's open. You can join for as low as $20 a month. If you go for a whole entire year subscription, if you just do month to month, it's $30. But still, this is like an $800 masterclass, and you're getting it for 80% off if you join. And I also got this, by the way, if you're into understanding your sun and moon in your birth chart, this and many other things in that membership. So I just want to say, when it comes down to it, I give a lot of depth. Here we are. What are we over in probably an hour and a half now? Let me see. Oh, heading toward an hour and a half. Because I'm literally like a holographic library of information from all the readings I've done and things I've learned. So in the Empathic Soul Love Rebel Masterclass, I will say we look at the archetypes of the Empathic Soul contract, such as the shaman, the wounded healer, the channel, the bodhisattva. I go into a lot of depth. There's a whole arcana of archetypes that tend to come in with people with an empathic soul contract. And what I really think is most powerful about it is this whole new development of a multisensory psychology from the point of view of this. And this applies to the Oholiday strategy as well, what I'm about to say. We, in this culture, not right or wrong, it's just where we are in evolution. And I know this because I studied psychology as an undergraduate in college. Clinical psychology. So we have a 5-sensory model of psychology. And that makes sense. It's, kind of where we started. But what I have been pioneering and developing is a multi-sensory psychology. How do we still work within some sense of system that's grounded and works with all the best that clinical psychology has offered and mapped, but jumps a quantum leap into the multi-sensory realm and begins to understand this. How do you think, as an empathic soul, developing in a 5-sensory model of psychology and just the 5 senses alone, how do you think that impacted you? I'll be honest, the answer is you have no idea how much it impacted you. How much you, frankly, have suffered because there was no understanding that reality for you needed more mapping. There was no understanding that as a child, because you are an empathic soul by nature, you were feeling your whole family, their whole psyches. And that at 5 years old, there was no psychological option to understand how to meet that in a way that was connecting and empowering for you. That isn't even an option for adults. We have splintered into a lot of woo-woo and stuff like that, which some I'm a big fan of, but there wasn't a coming around to integrate back. It was throwing the psychology out, the baby out with the bathwater, or vice versa, the more metaphysical understanding and organization of human consciousness out with the bathwater as well. And we needed those babies in the water. And without them, this is where someone ends up an addict. It's one of the primary archetypes of the one of the shadow archetypes, actually, of the empathic soul. And what I discovered is this: truly, if you have the empathic soul contract, you also, by the nature of your life journey here, have a soul contract with the love rebel archetype as well. And if you're not active in that archetype, you're going to get trampled on. You're not going to know where your field starts or stops. You're not going to know what a boundary even is, let alone how to actually make a real one, not just a sage it out one. You're not going to know these things. So one of the things you might want to do as part of your Oholiday Survival Strategy is get in this masterclass and at least go watch the free 2-hour video. At the very least, it's free. And then you and your soul can work out whether it's the right course for you. But I'm just saying, powerful, powerful stuff. And I pioneered this. No one's ever taught this stuff before. I have my own sort of unique channel on things. I just do. So I hope that it helps you. And yeah, I'll leave it there. But please, Godspeed. And just don't forget, it won't open for another year. And if you get into this one, I had another masterclass, the 2.0, that will launch in the spring. That's another deep journey. I mean, and that thing was crazy. So good. So let's get back to the Oholidays. But I would include this in it. Really, I really would. And I'm sure many people in this chat will start commenting on having taken it and how much it transformed their lives. Truly one of the most powerful courses I've ever taught. And it's where my work will continue to grow and refine for the rest of my own life as a teacher and just being alive. So I'm already I should be doing Empathic Soul 3.0. I've got new downloads and approaches to stuff anyway coming. Now, how's everybody? Any questions about the Empathic Soul and Love Rebel Masterclass? Let's take a minute and we're going to wrap this puppy up, send you on to your merry, happy Oholidays way. Thank you, Julia Aloha. She says, wow, this is so much wisdom you're dropping. Thank you. I'm going to put that up on the screen. Thank you, Julia Aloha. I really appreciate that. Yes, I love myself a love rebel. You guys, this is an archetype that I just began to see as a necessity in people that have the empathic soul contract. If your psyche, if you came in with that much bandwidth open and without a love rebel, oof, that's the tales of woe we could all share in a victimized empath circle. You know what I mean? So any questions about anything? How about any questions about this this survival strategy while I reposition for the last leg here? Thank you. All right. Check out Quantum. I did take your masterclass. It was the most empowering experience. Thank you. I'm so glad. Those just zing my soul and my heart when I hear that kind of feedback. And let's see. Oh, we got Doug here. How are you and Nike doing? ESLR 1.0 and 2.0 are life-changing. Yes, Doug Para, we're doing wonderful. I've got also some new additions to the family. I've got Ich habe Hansel und Gretel. I got these two kittens and they're siblings, so their names are Hansel and Gretel, more English version. So it's been a lot of fun around here. It's lit up the holidays for me a little bit. I'll of course be sharing videos and stuff soon about them. How long is the content? Okay, what's this? How long is the content for a 15? How is the content for a 15-year-old young? It's sophisticated. This is like a college course. Yeah, I think for a 15-year-old psyche, it just depends on the 15-year-old. It might be a bit much, honestly. But there's probably some stuff that would really be helpful as well. I think it's something you'd have to, Katrina, you'd have to kind of explore in your own intuitive sense and whether you would feel it was right. But it's probably right for you. Maybe you already have it. Okay. Zap Time says, my psychic senses have been liberated since I took that master class. Thank you, Zap Time, one of my students in my membership as well. All right. Yes, thank you, Warrior. I just have to put you up here because I just love your name. Warrior, Queen, Unicorn. I think that's an archetype. I'm feeling that archetype. I like it. Fabulous. Thank you. Yeah, it's been really fun. Shout out for, Dawn, shout out for your Chaos Cycles, Igniting Miracles in the Dark class as well. Yeah, that's a really great, one of my personal favorites. Absolutely wonderful. Okay. Oh, by the way, everybody, this is my mom. Hi, Mom. Happy Oholidays. Okay, well, let's get back to the rest of the content. Kind of get that off. And then I'll take some final questions at the end if you have any around this particular Oholiday Survival Strategy. And by the way, let me just reiterate, I have a audio download that's going to cover some different territory for those on my newsletter that they're going to get a link to that Friday. Or if not Friday, next week for sure. So make sure you're on my newsletter. And make sure you're on my newsletter for the Holocompass astrology free overview guidance forecast of 2022 that I'm doing this Sunday, 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You got to use your world clock on your phone to figure out what it is your time, but All right, here we go. Back into it. So we talked about, let's just recap. Where's my outline? What an empathic soul is, why this is a really challenging time for empathic souls on the planet. And also, paradoxically, that's why a lot of us are here. I talk about that in the masterclass. We're here because axial shifts like this and shifts of archetypal ages from a dimensional shift on planet to another. And this truly is not New Age woo-woo. This is alive and well in the world right now. It's alive and well in the headlines. It's alive and well in what you feel every day. It's alive and well in the medicine you keep, kind of stepping into that really does help you get traction in yourself and in your empowerment. So we are moving into, and have been, and it'll continue beyond our lifetime, into a new era of consciousness on the planet. And I just frame that briefly as one world consciousness, that we are one world. And that doesn't mean that all boundaries in the world dissolve and it's a one world order, which I've been accused of saying, which is someone reading into something, because I never said that. It means we can still have individual nations and countries, but we have to work together as if, hey, we do have one climate. We do breathe one atmosphere. And we do have one ocean in a way. We have to start acting like we all have to work in concert for the interests of our survival. We already have a one world economy. We have the internet. We've already got the psychic nervous system that's wiring into us as well, that connects us all together. This is not, you think the internet's woo-woo? Because that's if you think what I'm saying is woo-woo or whatever, then let's throw it all in there then, because it ain't woo-woo. All right. Anyway, we talked a lot about triggering during the holidays, and I just want to say something. Hopefully I won't go. I might have to come back to that because I don't think I can even say it without losing my shit right about now. So I will come back to that in a minute. Let's talk about handling holiday overwhelm. Now, as a recovering perfectionist, I was working with a spiritual director some years ago who gave me this formula. And I swear to God, it saved my life many times. And it's something I need to remember more often, actually. A lot of the time we are given these messages again and again and again by athletes, people that are influencers, or teaching courses on marketing, or teaching courses on how to be a badass and make it happen. And you know what I'm talking about, like that whole kind of genre of, and which is wonderful stuff, by the way. I'm not throwing out the baby out with the bathwater. I'm just saying a lot of times the messaging from that genre is this: if you want success, if you want whatever it is, fill in your blank, you better be willing to give 150%. And Be consistent. And I mean, all these things you hear all the time. And certainly there's wisdom in some of that. But the way we hear it and metabolize that in our psyche through our perfectionism, which we all are plugged into in a perfectionist shame-based culture, is this: I'm not good enough as I am. If I don't give 150%, well, I'm going to get smited down by the perfectionist gods, and my business will fail, my project will fail, my marriage will fail. Fill in your blank of where we're told to give and give and give. And, here's the deal. My spiritual director said to me, hey, listen, you know what you should do? Make a promise to yourself during the holidays that you're only going to do 75% of what you want to do. That's it. 75%. So everything you're thinking of doing right now, or look at your lists if you have them for the holidays. Decide right now, I'm only doing 75% of this. It's funky to say that and then kind of go, oh, but do I mean it? Yeah, you do. You mean it. I don't want you doing more than 75%. Hey, drop it to 50. Let's get rebellious. Now, I'll tell you, it does work. So what I'd have you do more specifically is every day do this. Wake up with your agenda for the day, and then ask yourself this next question: what would it look like to do only 75% of this agenda? Because that's all I'm doing. And then begin doing your 75%. What this does in this sort of thought reversal way is it actually deactivates the perfectionist. It deactivates the overachiever. It deactivates pressure. It deactivates shame. It deactivates low esteem. And it says, hey, I'm enough. I'm so enough that 75% is just fine. Because my agenda, what I get done, what I don't get done, isn't about my worthiness. It's about what's humanly possible and me not burning out. So try it out. I'll tell you, it's worked really well for me. There was one particular Christmas where I had all these family coming in and I had all these presents I hadn't wrapped. And I am a huge fan of decorating for holidays. So I have yet to decorate my house for Christmas, but this next week it's coming. I've been too busy. Just doing 75%, y'all. And I had decorated it to the nines, and it was, every year I try to top myself in what I can add in and do more of. So I had no presents wrapped. And I remember, and all I did was I used this formula, and I was stressing because they were starting to fly in and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm just supposed to do 75%. Oh, yeah. So I'm just going to get some bags, Christmas holiday bags for presents, and just throw them in there, staple them up, and put them under the tree. That's exactly what I did. Because here's the thing. If we're so stressed and so busy and pressured about the performance of the holidays, we're missing what the spirit of the holidays is. And that is presence with each other. That is connection with each other. I mean, frankly, F the rest of it. If we can't slow down and just be like, I could have wrapped this, but I'd rather be present to you. Here you go. Or I could have gone shopping for you, but I'd rather be present to you. So here's an Amazon or, I don't know, Apple gift card or whatever. To me, that's the soul of Christmas. That's the soul of the holidays. It's the soul of, I would like to think what this time of the year is for. And yet it's stressful, right? And so try the 75% formula this year. Give yourself permission. I'm only doing this. And really, when you start to feel the pressure build and your perfectionist is online and you're feeling yourself melt down. And here's the thing, don't we actually exhaust even more energy in that pressure? This will let it off. And what will possibly happen, and I say possibly because I don't want to now have you, expect it as another add-on, and then fill up another 25% and make it 100%, what can possibly happen is you actually get more done. When you kind of go, I'm just doing 75% today. Oh, cool. So I can take 3 things that are on my list and just kind of put them over there. Then, you get to that, I don't know, 7th thing, and it's like, wait, I think I can handle the next one and the next one. And then you get all 10 done, but you weren't stressed. You weren't pressured. You were present. Give yourself the present as a present. Okay. Now, I want you to look out for the main reactive archetypal roles and patterns in yourself and others. And also now, like I said, in groups. There's a lot of shadow judges. There's a lot of entitled shadow victim consciousness. There's a lot of political tribalism, shadow Republican, shadow Democrat, shadow, I don't know, fill in anything everywhere, and what you want to be very mindful of in power and powerlessness is if someone's made that identity, because that's when you're not going to have any power. All you can do, like I said, is show up and be an embodiment of compassion, but also a love rebel and someone who I think offers a third energetic to the polarization of life. We will not solve life's polarizations through the polarities that are polarized. Hear that again. We're not going to solve the polarizations going on in culture and society and politics in ourselves through the polarities themselves. You have to go to something that's a third thing to break that apart. And I will just say, how about we just generally call that third thing grace? Call that third thing living as if we are the answer to someone's prayer. Call that third thing, it might be a love rebel, but it needs to be outside of the activated polarization. So keep that in mind. It's interesting to play with that, because I would say in my own country, there's certainly one side that's gone off the frickin' rails, and there's certain words for it. But judging and shadow judging, it's not useful. We have to find a way for us all to come back to kindness, to care for one another, to, saying everyone matters and that their concerns have value. And I think that's a good starting point and unfortunately, I'm not so sure. I think the karmic momentum is so far now, I'm not so sure that medicine will be the first medicine that gets kind of put in play. But I think it is ultimately the medicine. So look at the main reactive archetypal patterns that kind of come on: perfectionism, stress. What think of it this way: what in folks manages stress, pressure, loneliness, reactivation of trauma? You're going to see a lot of that in yourself and others. So just be kind, truly. I mean, kindness is always the thing that makes the most sense most of the time. So remember, with family roles, don't hop back into the old role. If it might still be the role you're in, and if that's true, that's a whole nother conversation, but it's not who you are. It's not who you are. And I don't mean that like disassociate and put it in the shadow. No, I'm saying, hey, this is a pattern that became identity, but originally it was a pattern that helped you survive. And before it, we're going to bow. We're going to realize your soul is bigger than that. And more compassionate. So compassionate, it can move out in this circle of love and encompass, your perfectionist, encompass your addict, encompass your overgiver, shadow rescuer, with love. All of you gets to be here. That's what I'm saying for this whole holiday season. All of you gets to be here. Now, top 5 psychic hygiene tips for 2021 Oholidays. I think and I cover this in a lot, huge, big time in my Empathic Soul and Love Rebel Masterclass. In fact, this is a lot of what I teach about. We have really unfortunate misconceptions about psychic hygiene. So let me give you some tips to help dial you in and get you perhaps out of some of those misconceptions so you can put your efforts into the things that will really keep you psychically clear. Now, first, I think in this internet age, let's take the internet into play. It's so important to manage your psychic hygiene from ways we never had ever considered before. I've seen intuitively that there is something called, and I think actually COVID-19, I did a whole thing on this, is very symbolically resonant with what I'm about to say. But there are things called psychic viruses. And just like a human virus, they carry within them a certain kind of code. And I could say a few things to ground what a psychic viral code is. I could say something like, well, it's propaganda. It's trying to influence the way you think, and it's designed to trigger you. You have to typically be triggered into an emotional reaction for a psychic virus to get into your psychic immunity and into your system. That's its typical doorway in. Now, triggering goes all the way around, triggered into what? I don't know, feeling bad about yourself, feeling angry, feeling polarized in an us versus them tribalism. You go through all the different permutations of triggering, and you'll find a psychic virus waiting to hop in as soon as you're vulnerable and triggered up. As soon as you are no longer in your heart, in your body, in the real lived experience of your life, but you're now in what should, shouldn't, what is conspiracy, what is just a mental space, and you've left this power, this part of your power all behind, psychic virus is going to hop right into your psyche. That said, one of the top 5 psychic hygiene tips is be aware of everything on social media. Be aware of all the agendas on social media. One of the mistakes people have made, and it's really sad to see people get so infected, is they assume anything on the internet is true. Or just because a doctor happens to be talking on a YouTube video about something, that it's true. And I'm going to give you a little inside tip here of someone who's been in the publishing industry, the spirituality self-help industry, and they are industries. And they're a wonderful healing medicinal apothecary of things a lot of the time. But these days, we mistake people caring for us, and that's not necessarily their agenda. Their agenda is more likes, more views, and then ultimately to sell you on something. And sadly, one of the things that is most used is getting you afraid, getting you hateful and afraid, getting you insecure, and then engaging in a shadow projection process where you get polarized against, another group of people. And then the nature of a psychic virus, just like a physical virus, it will take hold, replicate itself, and literally it hijacks you. So I want you to be as mindful as this. And there's degrees of, let's say, infection and vulnerability here. Some things you see on social media or on the web somewhere aren't as virally potent as others. But you want to look out for the ones that somehow get you. One of the things you can used to discern someone's agenda is whether or not they're there to empower you or tell you what to think. If I consider myself as a teacher, someone that doesn't tell people what to think, but teaches them how to think. And I'm always in my agenda in my heart about empowering you. Like I just gave you an example of the masterclass. If you watch that video, it ain't right for you, don't sign up. I'm not here to convince you of something that's not right for you to make money. I'm here to offer you something that I think may change your entire life and redirect your whole entire destiny. But it may not be the right thing for you, and that's just fine. I run a business. I'm transparent that way. And I want to be resourced for the incredible amount of work I put into everything I do. Absolutely. I own my value. But I'm not here to hijack you or, trigger you into fear. I'm here to help you find your heart. And then I know if I can do that, you'll know the next steps for you. You will know that. And if I can get you out of your damn head, which is where we're all taught to go, even in this, helping space of empowerment that I'm in, people teach, get to your head. Here's the formula. Yeah. Drop into the grit, drop into the heartbreak, drop into the all of you gets to be here. And then now let's talk. So I'm going to just say, be discerning on social media and really start to discern information. I personally, on my personal Facebook page, hardly, first of all, ever post. Secondly, I don't think I share anything anymore. In this sense of sharing, internet news. It's so toxic. Also, take a social media and news break. This is another tip. And I find that to be very useful. And what I found for me when I've taken those breaks is that, wow, when you come back to the social media world, sometimes you're just like, oh, do I have to? And it's part of how I reach people. We are right now in the best of, I say, of what social media can do in allowing me to reach you and have this Oholidays Survival Strategy for Empathic Souls social live. Wow, that's freaking awesome. That I can reach the world. I have students from all over the world. And it's like I'm on TV now. And I think that is just absolutely incredible. And I'm glad I rose up as a teacher in this age and era where this technology was here. But equally, you have to be selective about what you allow in your psyche and what doesn't feel empowering. And don't just assume because someone who seems to be an expert says it's true, that it's true. Your own experience will forever be the best teacher. So if someone says something to you and it doesn't resonate with your experience, your genuine lived experience, I would just then use that as information and as a way to go, well, I don't know if this is actually true for me. You also want to catch your backside and realize you might have defenses, shadow defenses that don't want to look at what's true for you because it's painful or means you'll have to change your life. You want to check that out too. But really, take a minute and just do a little bit of, let's say, social media dieting even. Start a diet. If you can't, do the fast, just diet a little. And certainly the news, all news I find anymore is primarily slanted toward some agenda, and everyone is desperate to keep you watching them. Desperate. All the news sources are desperate. Now, that said, this is a little bit of just, in the new internet age era, things we need to really consider. I have taught a lot about psychic viruses. I teach about it in the Empathic Soul Masterclass. I think that's something to really understand. And there's a much deeper way to go into it, which I'll leave for that masterclass. But it's something just to start to go, oh, wow, those are actually, let me just break it down what they are from a way that's been around for a long time. When you look at focus groups that are often put together for political campaigns or for marketing, what I could say it another way, what those focus groups are trying to do is figure out a way to engineer a psychic virus that will get into you and replicate. Now, not all viruses seek to destroy the host. Some actually are helpful, and they're finding actually through some of the vaccine technology of COVID that they may be able to use some of that to eradicate cancer. So there's certain ways viruses can be used, I'm going to say, for holism, for light. But generally viruses, that's typically not how they go. And I would just have you consider, wow, anytime you see a political ad, I see them all as psychic viruses, all of them. I don't care which party. Anytime you see a politician giving an answer, they're kind of walking the line of the psychic virus. And that's every party. So don't pick a party and go, well, that's not yes, it is your party. I promise. And people that are, savvy marketers. And I don't want to make it right or wrong per se. I want to talk about its karmic consequences, and also, hey, this is something you need to look at. Top tips for 2021 and into the new year. I'm a marketer. I have to market, courses, etc. And so I try to do it in a way that is designed to help you see the value of the course for you or not, like I just said. But I don't need to get you into some tribal system or belief or, to vote for me. I'm a teacher. Maybe I'll be a politician someday. I don't know. I think it needs someone like me. But next thing I'm going to give you is a tip. I'm riffing around. Take an inventory of the roles in your life that get you toxically dirty. The roles you play. What archetypal roles get you dirty? For all the talk about saging, which I'm actually a fan of, crystals, which I'm completely a fan of. I mean, where's come on. I mean, look at my wrists. I mean, these are energy tools. And I'm actually in a deep dive into a lot of this and some other stuff I'm going to share with you eventually. I've got, this little protector. I'm clearly into some of that woo, baby. But I don't consider it woo. I consider it a tool. And I understand each limit of these tools. So for example, this lovely pyramid here, this is not going to opt me out of the toxic contamination that my addict archetype would bring into my life. This doesn't stop that. This doesn't ward off my perfectionist. So if you're someone who is a blood donor, that's an archetype you have, and you have issues with vampires in your life or narcissists in your life, I don't think a crystal like this is going to help you out. Sorry. Your flower essences, they're no match for an archetypal pattern. You're going to want to work with patterns first. You've got to understand, hey, what patterns get me contaminated? Meaning, what patterns have no boundaries? What patterns send me to my head? What patterns block my intuitive voice? What patterns have me feeling like the empath pattern, feeling everyone else's emotions, and then, in a way that gets me victimized. There's the victimized codependent empath. I'm codependently feeling your emotions. I'm empathic, so it's easy for me to do. I don't even think about it. And I feel like I'm the one in the end that's flattened by it all. And you're not making that up. Technically, yeah, that does happen. But your empathic soul senses are meant, end game, to be points of power. Forces of power in your life. They're not there to collapse you. And we haven't had a psychology that allows us to see it any other way. Not really. Most books on empaths and stuff like that, it's always the victimized empath literature and stance that's being taken. And there's just no power there. Your power isn't to hide behind an onyx bracelet or necklace. I mean, those do help and matter. But the pattern, your patterns get you psychically contaminated far more than anything. The ones that don't have boundaries, you're people pleaser. You want to know how you get psychically dirty? Hello. Go for that one. You want to know how psychic viruses and vampires get in? Well, let's talk about your blood donor and why you open up the door to the vampire. You're so easily seduced through an esteem vulnerability in your psyche. All someone has to do is pay you one compliment and tell you, hey, in our tribe, you're going to have value, and you're in. Forget what their tribe does in terms of damage in the world and karmically. And I'm not saying it's you per se, but I'm just giving you examples. You want to know, hey, I have to know the roles, the patterns, the archetypes in me that get me contaminated far before I'm reaching for a stone or a crystal or sage. Now, sage crystal stones, they're badass when they're woven into a holistic strategy of psychic hygiene. But if I go take an Epsom salt bath, clear my field, and it will. But then as soon as I step out, get my clothes on, re-engage the world, I'm back to people pleasing. Connect a dot. You just went and rolled around in some more dirt, and your aura is showing it. So now that said, another tip. I'm a big fan of blessing spaces through ritual. And what I think a blessing is, it's asking the light, and I don't mean light opposing dark. Mystical light doesn't have polarity. It's for another whole time to talk about. And I cover that in the Empathic Soul and Love Rebel, especially 2.0. Mystical light does not have polarity. I want you to think of something. If you're working within light as polarity, you'll always have dark right outside your door because it draws it to it. That's what that light tends to do. It is bound magnetically through the creative laws here. So mystical light is a third force. It's hard to describe. That's the thing about the mystical territory. We can't exactly describe it. We just know that light. I want you to think of it this way. Oof. Anytime. Well, I'll use my own recent losses as an example of light. A student/friend of mine died on November 15th from cancer. And when I feel her in my heart, I just feel love. I just feel light. It doesn't have an opposite. It just is what it is, It's beyond words. I feel that for my animals. I feel that for my family members. I feel that for my students. And it's not like there's a hate on the other side of that love that's in polarity to it. No, there's no polarity. That's the light I'm talking about. It's already in you. You've already experienced it. Think of the people you most love or the losses that have shattered and broken your heart open. Those are light activators. Those are light reference points in you of where the light lives, has activated, and can be summoned. It's the light of your soul. It doesn't have an opposite. So in psychic hygiene, blessing a space is bringing in that light. And it's saying to the light, please come into my space and harmonize it within your frequency. That's what I want you to do this holiday season. I want you to take a moment, and whatever form of ritual works for you. I am a huge fan of lighting candles. I'm surprised, I'm burning stuff in my house. I just love that the light they give off, the intentionality, the activation I feel in myself doing it, and it gives the light a vessel. And I want you to sense what might work for you. Take a moment. Now I have other things in my holiday sale. I have a wonderful, wonderful audio that's about intentionally ending things. At the end of the year, we're always talking about goals for the next year, but I don't see many people going, hey, let's consciously end 2021. Not only that, let's do a ritual of endings. So I created one. You can go get that as part of the Oholiday sale. And I have people, every year I bring this back, people that ever, and you can use it for any ending, by the way, not just the annual. It's designed so you can end anything consciously through ritual. But I have people still that have been doing it for 10 years since I dropped, I released it, doing it still. And it's got a powerful meditation with an angel. It's just, But that's my point. Ritual moves energy. It really does. And it's so powerful. And bringing the light here into your space to bless it. And blessing to me isn't, I don't affiliate it with Catholicism or Christianity in that sense. And not that there isn't blessing in some of their rituals and some of their intentions. But blessing to me is asking the light to harmonize the space and you to love. And love with no opposite. Love with no opposite. Whew. That resets things. So find a way, in whatever way you want to do this, to do that. That'll be a great strategy. And you might actually, if you're going to your family or their family's coming to you or wherever you're congregating, as much as we're allowed with COVID still being a player in our lives, wherever you're doing that, bless it, bless the space before, bless the meeting, bless everything, bless. So I would ask you to do that as a great tip for psychic hygiene. And last tip, be present. Be absolutely as present as you possibly can. Where we render ourselves vulnerable for psychic, energetic transgression or infection is when we're not here. Think about it. If you're not actually home in the moment, who's taking care of business? Who's protecting the home? If your spirit isn't here. So presence to me, let me be very clear, doesn't look like, I'll finally sit down and kind of get present with myself after I get through my whole to-do list for the day, after I've finished all the work I've got to do. No, that's not presence in the way I want to teach about it right now. Presence is this. All right, I'm busy as F. I'm stressed out. My perfectionist is already online. My overgiver's next. And I just need to be with that right now. Presence is being with the messy you and anything else that's happening in the rainbow of your experience. It's not, I'm finally present because I've gotten rid of distraction. That's a certain kind of presence, I guess, but how about you're present with the distractions? Presence is just being connected to what's happening in your experience. Good, bad, ugly, pretty, average looking. So be present. Practice and cultivate, and this is the key, unconditional presence. I'm present. I'm with me. I'm here. And as much as I can be, let's not bring perfectionism, but I'm with me no matter what. Wake up grumpy, bitch. Oh, I was not a fun guy a few days ago. It's one of those days. And I just knew I got to let this be okay. I got to be asshole Robert today. It's just, it's what's true. It's what's true for me today. So listen, I hope this helped. Lots to kind of mull over. So much love for you and your Oholidays journey. I got one more social live before I kind of wrap it up for the year and finish promoting all my courses and get back to taking a break myself. So share this with anyone you think that would benefit, please. And also get on over to my website, look around at the courses going on over there. Some are, here and won't be until a year from now. And all of them, if they go over $60, are on sale for 40% off. And my membership's open right now. And that closes on the 29th until a year from now. And I've got a masterclass, Intentional Synchronicity, that will blow your mind in there right now. And please, please, please give this course your attention. Just give it your attention and just be mindful. Doors close on the 31st. So this is time sensitive. Get your butt over to the site, watch that video, see if you resonate. And come check this out where you'll find this inside. And that's the only place it is. And just have a wonderful Oholidays. Be with yourself no matter what. And keep an eye on your power and powerlessness. That really does help. And 75%, baby. If I see you going toward 100. Well, if you go toward 100, you got to accept that too. All of you gets to be here, even your overachiever. All right. Do you have any questions? I want to connect with anyone who's still here. This went long, but who cares? You're enough no matter what. That's right, Edith. So any questions about anything? I got a little forum here for a few minutes. Happy to address anything while I get another double shot. feel like I had something else to say, and I don't know. Good night, Richard. All right, Louise Martin. Okay, I don't see any questions. You can write questions in the comment section. I see it both from YouTube and Facebook. What's included in the premium membership again? Kimberly, that's this masterclass. I'm doing courses next year that I'll sell outside the membership, but if you're in the membership, you have access to those as part of the membership. And a whole bunch of other stuff I did the last year and a half. The Holocampus Astrology of 2022, there's going to be 4 parts to that. All of them will be there. All of my astrology stuff is in there. So it's quite a bit. It's actually pretty well listed on the site if you want to go take a look. And the courses I'm going to teach in there are going to be there as well. Lori King. Hey, my Austin buddy. Love you. Love Rebel. Lisa Frank wants to know about the Love Rebel. Well, I'm going to say briefly, because I'm a little bit winded and it's a big ask, a big question. The Love Rebel is an archetype that is a kind of a combination of the mystical lover and the rebel coming together. And it's, I think, a new force for our times. I think not only is it the companion balance force for the destiny of the empathic soul, it's also something that it's a destiny archetype. Destiny archetypes are archetypes we develop into. We're not necessarily innately wired into them. So it's the destiny archetype match to the empathic soul. It is absolutely fundamental. There's not an empathic soul that does not have this archetype in their destiny. Now, that doesn't mean they've developed it well or they've developed it really at all, but it does mean you better get on it, you know, and not like something's going to punish you. You better get on it, because the fact that you don't have a love rebel is why you're in a lot of the victimized empath energy and situations and experiences. With the love rebel is, in a sense, just briefly, is a capacity to both and live in a both and paradigm of your sensitive nature. So I can both love you, and really I love you, you know, and I'm going to tell you to get the F out of my house. Both are true. The love rebel rebels against a lot of the kind of dominant paradigms in spirituality and self-help, and also religion, that we can't be angry, that we can't say no, that we can't draw a sword, that, for example, war is never useful. Is that actually true? No, it's not. What would have happened if we hadn't had World War II? There's times when certain medicine, it's intuitive. And to live life intuitively means you don't live in formula. You live in what the medicine of the moment demands. And if that means in this moment I draw a sword and in the next moment I give you a hug, that's just how it rolls. That's intuitive living. The love rebel is an intuitive force. So, a little taste, but I can both be in my heart and actually go fight a good fight. And what is a good fight? What is the good fight? How do we know it's a good fight? You know, there's things in there to explore, but it's juicy. It's really, I mean, the word would be badass, but it's really it's something I think if it's, yeah. And I'm not done talking about it in these courses, because I think it's something that I'm evolving my understanding of, in the same way I'm evolving my understanding of Chiron into more and more dimensional dynamics and aspects, because these are new forces for our age and they're essential. They really are. All right, Lisa, get in on this masterclass. Susan Francis, live in what the intuitive moment demands. Be a mystic teacher. Thank you, Edith. Katrina, you love you some juicy. That's what I'm talking about. Listen, I'll see you all on Sunday. If you care to join me for my Holocampus Astrology 2022 overview. And otherwise, you know, I'll see you soon, hopefully in a class. Okay, well, have a great Oholidays, and lots of love. I'm just trying to I need a better way to switch my all of my software around here. Any other questions? I think that's it. Yeah, so Liz asks, I'll put this on the screen because I forget I can do that. Is it difficult to get a question in? It's difficult to get a question in. Will we be able to ask questions about classes we purchased but haven't taken yet? Some you will. Master classes, absolutely. So I have another master class that's going to open up at the very end of December called You Can Do Magic. and it's a 20 lesson class. And also in the Empathic Soul and Love Rebel, it does finish with a Q&A. And I have Facebook groups for actually both those classes. So I pop into those, maybe do a Q&A here and there. So yes, but other courses that are smaller, no, there wasn't a Q&A as part of them. So some, master classes for me are courses that go over 12 hours. So the Empathic Soul Love Rebel is a 25-hour master class. That's why it's a master class. Intentional Synchronicity is currently 25 hours as well, actually almost 30. And other Holo Compass courses are about 10 to 12 hours, and those don't have Q&As. So, all right. Sunday is at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And there should be, you'll be getting links to it tomorrow, everybody. My membership, everybody's going to get links tomorrow. Shilpa, big hugs. All right, everybody. So much love for you, and have a wonderful, happy, and self-connected, centered, and empowered Oholidays. I'll see you soon.